Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cliff Yates Show podcast. We are recording for our podcast episode, but we're also streaming live. We will take your questions. You're going to have two cops today. I'm Cliff Yates, retired from the L.A. Sheriff's Department as a sergeant. I'm not even going to say he's a guest. I've got a co-host today. He's been with me before. Retired commander from the L.A. County Sheriff's Department. Also did time as chief of police, Westminster Police Department. Involved in leadership his whole career. He had a job that I would have always wanted to be, an instructor at the academy. He had all sorts of jobs to get where he got to, and still active serving today. And we're going to talk about fentanyl and what he's doing in the fight against this horrible scourge. And let me just bring on my guest, Ralph Ornelas. Hello, Ralph.
Hey, how you doing, Cliff? And guests, how you all doing today? Happy Good Friday before Easter.
That's right. We're dealing right now with the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ this weekend, and that's awesome. I'm glad you brought that up, and that's what it's all about on Easter Sunday. Yeah. But I'm so glad you joined me. And I was thinking about you yesterday, and I'll tell you why. I tried to get the clip. And we had talked before about you talking to the students and kids in several schools about the dangers of fentanyl, and you probably saved thousands of lives by doing so. But I was watching the Charlie Kirk show, and there was a guy on there, and I couldn't find the clip. I would have liked to play it, but he was really talking about how under Biden, their monthly seizures were basically 80,000 and 2,000 pounds a month. And since Trump has been in office, and in 2025, the seizures have gone down to about, 10,000, and they've only done like 500 pounds a month. And so the Trump effect is really taking hold with fentanyl. Have you looked into these stats at all, Ralph?
I haven't gotten the stats, but I'll tell you this, Cliff, is that some of the policies in place, let's be very quite frank, is that, this Trump administration is not only saying words, but also that it's more than talk, it's how they walk. And what they're doing is they're putting, the resources at the border. The DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, with other agencies, are going out and truly impacting communities that they know that certain gangs and the distribution of transnational gangs are bringing in this fentanyl. But also, the Trump administration is speaking diligently and persistently to the Mexican government, the president there, letting them know that they're not going to tolerate this anymore. In fact, Ratcliffe and also Senator Cotton have let it be known that the most high elevated, more than Iran and Russia and stuff, is truly the Trump administration is looking at fentanyl and the cartels as a terrorist organization, because they know the numbers. In the previous 4 years, we lost almost 250,000 young people from ages 10 to 45. That's the future of our country. So exactly. I got to admire President Trump for this position that he's taking, not only in law enforcement, but more than a global approach to regards to going after these cartels. And I can tell you this: when I made captain of narcotics in 2010, I was sent to Special Operations Division of the DEA, knowing what kind of cases my detectives and narco were working, not only in California, but across the country and in South America and Central America. There were unbelievable cases that cartels and certain terrorist groups in the Middle East were doing business with each other. So the Trump administration, with his support, with his talented people, are telling him these are the things we have to do to bring back and to protect this country.
Yeah, and just to protect and I don't know, if, maybe you can talk to this, because I was watching one clip when a gal lost her son to fentanyl, and basically there was a lot of blaming going on, like, well, if he hadn't taken it, of course, he'd still be alive. Do you find any of that? I mean, I could see that. I could see myself saying that maybe, when you're talking about heroin or whatever. But with fentanyl, it's so often used as disguised as other drugs. I can imagine if I was in high school and I was going through my skinny phase, and somebody came to me and says, "Hey, listen, try this steroid. You're going to put muscle on, and this will really help you get bigger, Cliff." I might have taken this. What, it might have been laced with fentanyl. I could have died. So, I mean, I don't think we can really be blaming. We need to stop this influx of the drug, right?
I agree 100%, Cliff. And listen, I have a niece and a nephew that have been negatively impacted by fentanyl, them thinking that it was something else. So let's speak directly to this.
Yeah.
Snapchat
Yes.
is a dark web advertising platform where a lot of young people are buying this stuff, and they don't even really know cartels. And the cartels are manufacturing these pills out of Mexico, stamping, same insignias, same color, numbers on them, and portraying it to be legitimate medication. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
It's not. And I want the audience to know, you cannot buy anything that's legal on a dark web advertising or Snapchat. So
Right.
to your point, you're 100% correct, Cliff. We have young people. It's not about addiction. Like when I lost my cousin, he was 16 years old with a needle in his arm. He was addicted. These are sometimes young people
Yeah.
that want to take Adderall to stay up at night to study.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And they get this poison pill, and I say poison because law enforcement and DA have classified it as poisons and murders. Okay,
Yes.
and I'll say this to you, Cliff. There's a gentleman that lives up in Santa Clarita. I could say his name. His name is Jaime Puerto Gonzalez. In 2000, died of fentanyl poisoning from, I think it was Adderall. They wanted to stay up and study. I think it was Adderall. They wanted to stay up and study. I mean, Jaime, the father Jaime, was a Marine. I mean, to this day, he's going across the country speaking to educate parents and young people about the dangers of what is going on by young people interacting, interfacing with drug cartels that are using Snapchat and dark web advertising, Cliff.
Yeah. I don't even know who owns Snapchat. I wonder if a lot of people, maybe on TikTok, are they just using Snapchat, or who owns that? I wonder who's. I just wonder because maybe it's a China owned, because China's really providing the
other platform.
China's really providing the Mexican cartels with this.
Broken up.
Yeah, we broke up a little bit, but I was saying, you'll come right back in here. It just seems China's kind of supplying the ingredients, right, to like Mexico cartels.
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me, Cliff?
Yep. Go ahead. We got you. We're back on. Yep.
Are you there?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So the precursors all come from China. All right.
Right.
The precursors all come from China. They come into Mexico, into Michoacan, a port. Then they also go to Lazaro Cordero port, which is south, and into the Michoacan area. And two different cartels. You have the Sinaloa cartel in the north, and then you have the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación cartel, and they get these precursors and they bring it to the clandestine laboratories and either make it in powder or they press them into pills and they sell it on Snapchat. Okay.
Yeah.
So can you still hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead. You're loud and clear. Go ahead.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So they press them out and they sell them over Snapchat. They sell them over Snapchat, Cliff.
Yeah.
And they use Snapchat as the platform to sell to our youth of our community. Now, I know a former DA, he's retired now. He's done some major investigations against Snapchat. And Snapchat has all their hard drives in another country, which means we cannot get the messages that if you were talking and you were 16 years old, 18 years old, speaking to our cartel member, what happens, this former DA investigator cannot get those communications. They disappear within like 20, 30 seconds, and we can't get those hard drives because they're in a foreign country.
Oh, that's right. That's part of Snapchat, right? The message disappears, right? After so much time. That's what I would say, poisoned, right, by China, and without a shot being fired. I mean, they're at war with us.
Well, that's the reason I like the fact that the Trump administration is putting some of these tariffs against China and Mexico and also Canada to get them to understand that, hey, like they said before, the Trump administration does not want to allow this to go on, and he's being very serious about it in some of the policies he put in place. I think we have to put our heels in the sand and make a very strong stance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just thinking that we need people to talk about it more, and it should be more on the news. What is happening? They don't even want to report on the border is pretty much like 99% shut down compared to what it was, and no one's talking about it because they don't want to show a win, I guess, for Trump. But
Cliff, we're just starting to find out more and more the damage of the weakness of lack of leadership within the Biden administration. And let's face it. I mean, I don't think that Joe Biden really knew what was going on. I think people were signing off his name on it, and they had a different agenda. I'm not holding. Not that I'm not holding him accountable. With everything going on right now, some books that have been being written about him by his own surrogates.
Yeah.
Basically, they're revealing the fact that there were a lot of missteps and a lot of neglect and a weak approach.
Yeah, a weak approach, and we know what that does. It just, it invites really violence, and we're going to get victims because. And speaking of, what do you think about? Man, I love this El Salvadorian president. Man, that guy's awesome, right?
During my time working down in Central America, I met some dignitaries from El Salvador. Okay, and during my time, the first president when I was going down there in 2006 was Antonio Gonzalez Saca, who, if you look at the name Saca, it means that his origination was from Middle East.
Ah, okay.
Well, Nayib Bukele, if you look at his name, it comes from the Middle East also. So he's very strong-minded, very bright, and I like his positioning, what he's doing. And look at the murders in 2015. My last time, and I was working down in El Salvador, they had almost 6,000 murders per year. That's the size of L.A. County, 6.5 million people, 4,000 square miles, and they had almost 6,000 murders in 2015. And now I think the murders are just, I mean, I don't even know the number right now. It's like probably 300 for the year.
He said that they were once the murder capital of the world, and now he says it's safe. And I looked into it. So their murder rate per 100,000 is 1.9, and ours is around 5.86, and I guess theirs used to be 8. And so, wow, but of course, a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with his strategies, but I think it really works. And you know what people are finding? They're finding that they feel more free. And of course, I guess he impeached all those liberal judges and he got rid of them. And, and so, man, I just liked what he said the other day in the Oval Office. Did you see that interview there?
I did. I like what he said. He goes, I'm not going to smuggle people back into the United States.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What do you want me to do? He said, smuggle these people back in. And some idiot in the news said, well, you could just let them go. He says, hey, I made our country safe. Now I'm not going to let them go and turn a killer loose. And he talked, and I guess he's on X all the time. And he was saying, why am I going to, I want my people to be free to walk the streets at any time, day or night. And right now they are. And so why would I do anything to endanger that? I don't know how I don't know how they defend this position. You got a guy who was they call him the Maryland man. The guy he's an El Salvadorian citizen. He's not one of our citizens. It's been documented that he's an MS13 gang member, and these people are, fighting to get him back here.
Well, Cliff. I don't know if you've seen. I know you saw some of the pictures of this.
Yeah.
Kilmer Abrego Garcia, and you saw pictures of him with the Chicago Bulls basketball.
Yeah.
So okay, so now you have to understand something. In the MS13 Mara Salvatrucha, right?
Yeah.
They value about the horns, right? So when I was working in some of the prisons there, we were interviewing people. They would always go like this. Okay, you see
Oh,
what you see what this means? See what this is right here?
yeah.
Those are like horns, right?
Yeah.
So think about the basketball,
Chicago Bulls. Yeah.
the bulls, the horns, right?
Horns.
So in when we were working some of the going into interviewing people in the prisons, the drawings on the wall. I mean, they would have drawings on the wall of Jesus Christ with fangs, with the horns coming out of the head. I mean, they believe in this ugly type of philosophical approach that it gives them strength,
Oh,
and
okay.
it gives them strength, and so it's that when I saw that right away, and I see all the disputes about is this guy, but that alone with the horns told me a lot. Told me a lot because when you used to go in, when you see you go look at some of the videos, even past years of some of the prisons in El Salvador, you'll see the inmates going like this, all the time.
Yeah. Wait,
So
so wait, back up a little bit, Ralph. I didn't know this. So you spent time in El Salvador and you went into the prisons to talk to these gang members?
yeah, I would go with.
What?
So we created a task force with the FBI. It was LAPD, LA County Sheriffs, starting in 2007, and we first started working the streets, and then we go into the prisons to interview people to get intel. Because what we did, we called it the blood triangle. The blood triangle is like you got East Coast, West Coast, and it goes down to Central America, and all the reglas and the rules and regulations would come up from the headquarters of some of the leaders in El Salvador and Guatemala and Honduras up into the different parts of the United States and even Houston. So this guy Kilmer Obrego Garcia, he's from Maryland. So
Yeah.
we worked with in 2008. They brought investigators from I think it was Prince City, Maryland. They brought investigators there to work with us because they had an influx of violence about MS-13 in their city also.
Oh, that makes sense then that these guys, because I wonder what would this guy be doing in Maryland? And wow. So were you in do they have like county jails and or just prisons, or how does their justice system?
They call delegation jails, which are kind of just like we have a jail, but then they have large prisons. They have the Quetepeque prison is one very low level. They had Izalco, which is a higher level. They have Zacatecoluca, and they had Ciudad Barrio prison also. So we would go visit some of them. They had another lower level called Soyapango, and they had another one called Ilipango, and they had these lower level and then progression of higher. At the time, the one that was the most highest level was Izalco, and then the other was Zacatecoluca. And
Zacatecoluca. I could say that.
yeah, it's like a dance. It's like a dance when you say that.
Zacatecoluca.
But it's very interesting. And along the walls, there's some of the inmates would write things or draw it. Would write 213. What's 213?
Area code of LA. Wow.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Exactly. Yeah, they would write 213, and they would write certain cliques of LAPD's area, and on the walls and stuff. So there's a big connection, obviously, from.
I didn't know that. Oh, we might have lost you just for a second. I hope you'll come back in. Ralph Ornelas spent time in El Salvador going into the prisons, which this is amazing because I didn't even know that he did that. And so I'm interested.
You were frozen, Cliff. I missed it. What did you say?
Yeah, because you were frozen on my end, but I'm just interested in your time down there and the connection between El Salvadorian gang members in L.A. So they were dealing drugs or with L.A.?
Well, first of all, let's go a little history here.
Yeah, because I don't know this. Yeah.
My first visit, I met with the ambassador of the United States, Glazier, and I met with the director of the whole country's police department at the time, this gentleman by the name of Rodrigo Avila, and I had to talk about the history of MS-13, and MS-13 originated in Los Angeles. I mean, they started out as stoners, and then they gravitated to the words mata. Mata means strong. They also down in Central America, they say mata is a strong ant, and then sava and trucha. So they put it all together. Watch out for us. We're strong.
Gotcha. Okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
this. Wow.
So anyway, when went down there, we would talk about how it originated. It originated in L.A. And then during that period of time, we were deporting some of these El Salvadoreños, Guatemaltecos, and Hondureños back to their country, and they
Oh.
started up MS-13. And the ironic part about that, Cliff, is that the 18th Street Gang started up in El Salvador, but
No, I didn't know that.
it originated in here in Los Angeles
Yeah.
because it's 18th Street, 18, is a Mexican gang that was victimizing the Central Americans in Los Angeles, LAPD's area.
Oh,
So we
okay.
deported some of these other members that also they broke off. They wanted their own clique. So they started 18th Street. The biggest two rivals of gangs in Central America is 18th Street and MS-13.
Okay. Wow. So, and then were you down there when you were working for narcotics? Is that why you were down there, or gangs?
No, I wasn't. I was working strictly gangs as a lieutenant down there.
Oh, okay.
And,
Great.
And the LAPD allowed me, by a deputy chief who just passed away, a great man, Gary Brennan, and I, we were working together down in El Salvador, and we came up with an FBI agent, Bob Loosely, is now retired. We came up with an idea, an officer exchange program. And Bob Loosely called it the Central American Law Enforcement Exchange Program. And the goal behind it was not to have a lieutenant or a deputy chief or an executive for FBI, but bring together the guys on the ground, some of the OSS investigators, LAPD's investigators, the FBI's investigators, and we started bringing in Houston PD, Prince City, Maryland, Fairfax, Virginia, and we brought in Suffolk County, Long Island, which now has a big problem with MS-13. So we thought if we did that, we would have investigators sharing intel, because we found out, Cliff, the MS-13 with connection to all the other Latino gangs, 653 other Latino gangs in Los Angeles County, along with the Mexican Mafia.
Yeah.
We brought these investigators together to try to share intel and cases to be able to beat the gangs to the punch about how we intercede.
How did they how did they end up in Maryland? I don't get that.
Well, you see, transnational gangs purposely do that to spread I call it their disease, either
Yeah.
disease of human trafficking, extortion, narcotics.
Yeah.
And that's why they went into different areas. Also, Cliff, MS-13 is in every state, in the United States. And why? A lot of them are very bright, and a lot of them are very good hard workers. But along with that, they take with them extortion and narcotics.
Yeah. So we got the Maryland man here. I looked at some of the, his wife had a protection order out on him. He basically beat her up several times and threw her down, and a pretty violent guy. How does this Maryland senator, defend trying to bring this back to his community? I don't get why there's not an uproar about that.
Cliff, I'll tell you, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
You probably saw Rachel Morin's mother speak the other day.
Yeah.
And how can we not understand after how horrific her daughter was murdered,
Yes.
tortured, raped, and then this senator has the audacity to state either before or right after that press conference, he's in El Salvador saying he wants to see this to get him back home. Well, all the facts that this guy came here illegally.
Yeah.
Now, I think somehow, some way, we've lost focus about people coming over illegally.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, my grandparents came over from Mexico and stuff like that years and years ago. and they became citizens the proper way. My
Yeah,
mother's parents came over to Italy, and they came the right way. I mean, I don't care. We're a country of immigrants, but come over the proper way.
that's
Don't
right.
come over here illegally, and then expect to get the benefits of this country.
Yeah, I just can't, well, I can see their motive and why they would do it. I just can't see people defending and, an open border where citizens are victimized because of the mass, invasion by people who, rightly want to come here, but we just can't allow it.
Well, I mean, listen, we worked. You and I worked in a career to protect the public,
Yes.
right? And we protect everybody that we engage with honor, courage, and commitment. But guess what? When we have criminals, I don't understand that we have criminals coming torturing our citizens, our community, our youth, our women, the manner that this poor Rachel Marin was going on a run, and that she gets killed by illegal. I mean, I'm sorry. I have compassion and empathy, but I mean, let me tell you, it goes so far that I don't think certain these people here illegally should receive the rights that we have. And I know what's going to happen. I say that, and people are gonna negatively criticize me, but you know,
No.
um, some people haven't been through the path you and I have, Cliff, and the things that our eyes have seen.
Yeah, it's is it Mark Victor Hansen, or he does a through Hillsdale College. He talks about how they're really trying to dilute, and the breakup of the citizen, really, of trying to get rid of citizenship and any benefits from it. Yeah, a guy I followed today was saying these Democrats, they always stand with the criminal, and it's just crazy the way they do that. Matter of fact, speaking, so my wife was born in Cuba, right? We have a friend at our summer place, a lady, and she was saying, oh, this country, some of these inmates, they don't have toilet paper. And then my wife got so defensive, hey, what do you think we did in Cuba? Well, this is the greatest country in the world. I didn't have toilet paper. We had to take a shower and wipe our ass in the shower. I don't care if these inmates don't have toilet paper.
Well, Cliff, people that say that the inmates don't have paper or proper food. Let me tell you, you and I both worked in
Yeah.
Men's Central Jail, and I was a captain there. I would have to go in front of 150 inmates to do town hall meetings, and let me tell you, most of their complaints, it wasn't about toilet paper. They had plenty of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Their complaints were sometimes about they didn't like sometimes the food.
Yeah.
Okay, the other complaint was, well, I had a dentist appointment, and the deputy didn't get me out on time to get me to my dentist appointment. Okay,
Yeah.
and I would listen to that, and I would work on all those things to try to make things better, to make sure we expedite those passes of, dentist or heart check or diabetes check, or they had to get the insulin shots. Hey, listen, I understand that, but guess what? I know for a fact that you, the other sergeants and the deputies, and myself as a captain, my lieutenants, we work so hard to be able to accommodate and fulfill and to be able to meet the standards of what the California Corrections standard was, and also what the
Yeah.
Department of Justice mandates were put
Yeah.
on us.
I don't think people know that, there's a nutritionist there. They make sure that the inmates are getting 3 balanced meals. I don't think they know that the lawyers really fight to make sure there's citrus in their with their meals so they can make, jailhouse Pruno and alcohol. So these people, if they're getting medicine, they get it just like they get in the street. Or most people weren't getting any medicine when they come into the jails. They're seen by the doctor, and now they're getting the proper medicine that they don't get on the street. And so they're really well taken care of.
Oh, hey, Cliff, and listen, I'm not saying it's perfect, okay?
No.
It's
Yeah.
not. It's not going to the Ritz Hotel, but guess what? 90% of all the inmates we had during the time you and I were working there, right? Guess
Right.
what, Cliff? The majority of them weren't here for misdemeanors. They were here for
No.
violent crimes,
No.
and 80% of them were all gang members.
That's right. Yeah.
And they would tell me to me, my face in town hall meetings, I wouldn't want my relatives coming and visit me in this place.
Yeah.
I mean, because they know they know the mentality. If anybody wants to read a great book, it's called The Black Hand by Chris Blanchford and given facts, interviews by Rene Enriquez, who was a Mexican mafia associate.
Oh yeah, I remember the
Rene would,
Black Hand. Yeah, I had that at one time. Yeah.
Rene would tell the audience or anybody that wanted to speak to him, and I've been in this company alone when I was a lieutenant, and then when I was a captain of narcotics, I used to go in to meet him over at, I think, Monterey Park Police Department. He had a cell there just for him. And he said, listen, you don't want me out in the street. You don't
Right.
want to meet
Yeah.
people like me. He goes, let me tell you something. He said, us people who grew up this way with drug abuse and being in these prisons and jails, we're predators.
Yeah. The predators. That's
He
right.
used to say we're predators.
Yeah. People don't get that until they're maybe even victimized. Hey, let me pivot to something that's going on with the LA Sheriff's Department, and maybe it's nationwide, but I think they're at running, you probably know better than I do, 1,400 plus sworn positions that are they're behind. Because I know from family members that they're forced to work overtime at an amazing rate. These people are tired. They don't get time off. They're drafted, and they're really, they're not being healthy mentally or physically.
The number's actually higher than that, Cliff, between injured on duty and relieved of duty because of misconduct. It's probably close to almost 3,000. I'll be honest with you.
Wow.
So that's a very tenuous situation to be in.
Yeah.
And plus during when Alex Villanueva was the sheriff, they took a lot of monies away from the sheriff's department. So it made it very difficult, and they took not only monies, but they took away certain deputy items, to save money.
Right. Okay.
The board of supervisors. So I look at right now the leadership on top of the sheriff and other people that I know are under sheriff and assistant sheriffs. They're working very hard to try to recoup and get people through the academy. And they're trying to recruit hard, but recruiting's not easy right now.
I don't care where you go; it's not easy because of I was talking about this yesterday. Yeah, because now you've painted this picture of a systemic racist organizations, and then generalizing misconduct. And who wants to do that? You don't want to do that job. Well, I'll be associated with these people when we used to be considered more heroes, and then. So it's hard to get people to want to do that job.
And you say job, I say career.
Yeah,
I say career. I say love of being a public servant and as a deputy sheriff, working the streets, working the jails. I mean, I absolutely loved it. But the interesting thing we were talking about here would happen in 2020 after George Floyd. The media made monsters out of law enforcement across the nation, and I really believe that the media are the ones that really are having young people stay away from a career in law enforcement. And, it saddens me because it's so honorable and so noble to be able to be sworn in and wear that badge on your chest that knows that badge dignifies or signifies the fact that people can trust you.
Right.
And people can trust you. And, and listen, I know you and we talked about it once before, but, that is not a symbol that I took lightly.
Yeah.
I love the fact that people, when they engage me, they believe I was going to do the best I could for them on the streets or wherever my assignment was. And, that's something noble about that. The nobility of being an officer, a guardian of the community.
Yeah. Danny Kuhn always said there's only two God-ordained professions, the pastorate and police officers. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. I mean, Danny Kuhn's right. I mean, there's a fire in the belly about having to have done that career.
Yeah.
As long as we have done it and we're still around, number one. Number two, and I think I'm still a little bit sane,
Yeah.
But I really believe is because we surrounded ourselves, Cliff, around good people, mentors, family, friends, that, we could bounce things off of and, get a good response.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, man, that's just gosh, it's so. And I would hope for the. Well, let me go into something else. I have another friend, Dominic Izzo. He's kind of an activist that was a former police officer, but he makes good points, but he does it in a very caustic way. But he posted on Instagram these videos. You got these. In this case, it was it's males too, but it's a female officer. She's to me, I couldn't believe this can't be real, but of course, it turns out she is. She's dancing in her patrol car, and she gets out and does these crazy songs, and she's doing this on duty in uniform, and it's very embarrassing, and I just can't believe that it's allowed, and there's a lot of them doing it. They call them TikTok cops, and they're making these stupid videos. I don't think they should be allowed to do it. I mean,
Cliff. A lot of departments are doing that to show.
They want to humanize. Yeah.
They want to be human. But I gotta tell you, I mean, listen, they can do whatever they want. I mean, personally, I don't agree with it. But guess what? If they think that's the way, but what I used to do, this is before I had handheld radio, MDT, I used to put my outside speaker on, park at one block, end of the block, and walk the whole block the other direction and engage everybody.
Yeah.
Talk to everybody.
Yeah, of course.
If I walked by a house that had a little basketball net outside it on top of the garage, I'd grab the basketball and take a shot, and that's how I would connect with some of the kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great.
But and listen, I love to dance. Being, part Latino, I say, mi boca no Latino, mi piernas Latino, But, I mean, I love to dance, but, I mean,
you'll be TikToking, man. You're going to be TikToking.
I'm going to tell you a story. This
Please.
is a funny story. So I'm working with a guy named Solomon Patton. We're working, the North End, which was like, Rosecrans and Central Avenue and stuff. And on Fridays, they have the KAC mobile radio station at this hamburger stand. And, like I said, I like to dance. So it had some good music. So to connect with some of the kids, we're out there, high school kids, I got out of the car and I started dancing with some in uniform with some of the young girls and stuff. And they got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
They made fun of me. But, I showed
a human side to you, yeah.
A human side. So anyway, I get done with my shift, right? And I get to the station. I hear Deputy Ornelas report to the captain's office. So I go, Buford Smith was the captain. He lived in Compton. So I go in his office and he goes, hey, Ralph, tell me what you did today. I tell him all the arrests, this and that. And he goes, you do anything to connect with the community? I go, no, not really. Not really. He goes, you're lying to me. I said, I am? And I go, yeah. He goes, I saw you dance with the girls. I thought he was going to, reprimand me. He goes, Ralphie, that was the best. He goes, that was really good. So my point to the story is, if you're going to use that, use it in a real situation with some of the kids. Not that you got to get in front of just to highlight, you could dance. I mean, do it with some of the community members spontaneously,
right?
Not orchestrated.
Yeah, face-to-face interaction. Yeah, I like that. I like that stuff. Yeah, definitely, that's good. Yeah, the recruitment issue is a big problem. I bet it's probably nationwide. I would imagine. That's what I'm hearing from New York State Police and some upstate New York friends of mine are saying they're like dropping. They used to require a degree. Now you just need a GED, and they're really trying to get people to join up, and they're not really doing it.
Yeah, well, I think that goes back to what I said about the media disparaging law enforcement so much and making us sound like we're barbarians or something like that. But let's face it. Tough communities. I don't care if it's New York City, Baltimore, Detroit. I had a friend who used to be the Detroit chief of police. Great guy, James Craig. Houston, L.A.
Yeah.
I mean, these tough communities. They need us.
That's right.
Something else. They'll never say this to you, but they really want us. The key to it, though, is this, though, Cliff, and I think you'll agree with me. They want some officers that are going to talk to them straight up, and don't, be assertive, but respectfully assertive, And let's face it, everything's on camera today. The
Yeah.
body worn camera with the phones and stuff. I would tell this to my officers and my deputies, whatever assignment, even when I was a chief. You be the Steven Spielbergs of that movie.
Correct. Yes. You have to
Steven
know.
Spielberg.
Yeah. You're the main character, and you got to know, see yourself in this movie and how you're going to be portrayed. Yeah. And play
And your
that part.
department.
Yeah. Play that part the best. Here's a problem I see. And I've seen this actually yesterday. I saw about 10 of these videos, and these are body cam footage. This young lady stops on a black lady in a car for speeding. She's very polite. And ma'am, I stopped you. You're going 55 and a 30. And no, wait, no way. And she put her phone camera. I got you on camera. Ma'am, I just need to see your driver's license, And these people have been propagandized so much to believe that they should argue their case on the street. And so she continued and the officer just, listen, no, I want a supervisor. I'm not giving you nothing. You have to give me your ID. I want to see the radar, and you got to show me. Well, we don't have to show you. And I'm not going to give you my license. I want a supervisor. Okay, I'll get you a supervisor. And so now we got 2 or 3 coppers show up, and one's was a big black officer, and he says, well, let me talk to her. Maybe she'll give me her ID. And no way. She had no part of it. Oh, hold on, Ralph. I had a cramp in my leg.
Hey, call 911.
Oh, my God.
911.
That hurt. Oh, my God. Who's going to come? Anyways, what I was going to say was it finally got the supervisor was taking a long time to get there. Finally, another officer comes, listen, ma'am, you just got to show your ID. They're like begging with her, well, I ain't going to show you. You're required legally to show us ID because you're on a legal traffic stop. They went through very, very calmly, And so eventually he said, well, I'm going to have to break the window and, arrest you. And so, man, that's what he had to do. He broke the window out and they took her out, and she's getting hit with reality. The car's already up on the tow truck. When they got her out, it was halfway up. And then the supervisor gets there and, gets in the back seat or leans in the back seat. And she's like, I wasn't speeding. And then he went, well, ma'am, that's a case for the court. You were legally stopped. And it's driver's ed 101. When you're pulled over, you have to show your ID. And so I don't know what to tell you. And so now you're going to jail. You could have been on your way. But I see a lot of these where people believe, oh, no, you have to show probable cause, and they think they can argue this on the street. And it's too bad that this is going on.
I gotta tell you once again, Cliff. It goes back to the media.
No, I agree.
I really believe that the media projects this certain verbiage. I don't know who's putting it out, but everybody wants to chat. And this is the difference. I'm not saying it didn't happen to you and I when we were patrol. But very rarely, though. Very rarely. I believe that this new mentality with smartphones, which are actually dumb phones, makes us dumber, and we lose common sense. I believe that these phones have made people think they're more important than what they really are. And they want to challenge authority. They want to challenge authority on every level. It doesn't matter if it's a cop, a store owner, you name it, they want to challenge it on every level. And it's really sad. And I tell you, it really concerns me for young officers today. On the street, because they have to deal with a whole different mentality than you and I did when we were out there working the streets.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, this whole, I think really what needs to be, there has to be like a civilian academy in high school. Just people have to be trained. This is, what happens. These are what the police officers have the authority to do. And when you're on the street, when you get pulled over, this is what you're required to do. And I just think they need to be really educated on these things, on what people should be trained, that you have to follow a lawful order, that you don't challenge that order. And what you do is you can challenge it later, go to the station, contact somebody, a lawyer, whoever. I believe they didn't have probable cause, but you can't, to argue on the street, it just can't be and everybody's doing this, What is your right? I don't have to show you ID. I didn't commit no, you have to show me ID. No, you don't have probable cause. And, and they're refusing. Oh my! And it just leads down a bad way.
Well, there's people out there that are training young people to do that though too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the problem. But I agree with you. But the other thing is this: there are so many systems in place of checks and balance of every organization.
yeah,
There's that 1-800-complaint, right? You
yeah,
remember that?
yeah,
The bumper sticker on the sheriff's cars, 100. I think it's 1-800-complaint. Okay, remember that?
yeah.
I mean, there's a whole complaint process. There's a review process. I mean, you have the officer independent review. You call the remember, there's also another. It was
The ombudsman, and yeah,
the ombud. Thank you so
yeah,
much. I mean, I can name 4 different entities within the organization you could call to complain to try to dispute your stop or maybe being treated unjustly. I mean, there's so many out there, but this is what I always worry about. It's the emotion that gets carried away that
yeah,
causes the confrontation. And that's why when I was a staff instructor in the academy, I said, we cannot lose our emotions. We have to control our emotions, because if we lose control, it all goes to crap. Because these people we're stopping already, their emotions are up here because they want to challenge us on every level.
yeah. And believe me, all these officers were unbelievably patient, and all the comments, supported that. But but here you had 3 or 4 officers now tied up on this deal because someone had filled this lady's head that this is the way it goes, and now somebody was waiting for an officer to come and take a report. They have to wait now because this is going on, and it's just too bad that it has to be there. But I see a lot of this.
Are you getting any questions in the audience or what?
I don't have any questions coming in. I don't know why. Hey, ask some questions, everybody. You got 2 coppers here willing to answer any questions. And, and if we don't, that's okay, because it's just you and I talking. That's okay. Yeah.
No. I'm just kind of curious because
I'm waiting. I have the questions open. So if anybody has any questions,
I see on the top left it says 10. Does that mean that there's 10 people subscribed or,
10 are watching right now. We got 10 watching. So type in a question, everybody, and we'll be glad to answer. And I'm really interested, Ralph. You were in El Salvador when it was really bad. What was the country like? Did you get to look around or?
Oh yeah, I mean they took us, all on the ground to the volcanoes, to the hills, Huachapan. I mean to the ocean, some of the tough cities within El Salvador. San Salvador is the main capital, but there's little areas like a little town, just a little. I think it was southeast. It's called Iberia, a long street, and there's a dividing line between 18th Street and MS13. And these MS13 kidnapped 7 young girls from the 18th Street side. And I was working with the Comandante. Her name was a really bright lady. Her name was Veronica Urate. And she came back to her country after the peace accords in 1993. And I was assigned to work with her because she was an engineer. She wasn't a cop. She got trained by International Academy. So I was working with her. And we get over the radio that there are 7 bodies found in low-lying graves. Jeez. I gotta tell you, I've seen some ugly crime scenes in L.A. County, working gangs, just working as a regular deputy like you did, Cliff.
Yeah.
But this was 7 young girls that were kidnapped by MS-13 that with machetes cut their breasts off and their private parts, and hands off, and they buried them all over the place. And these girls were like from 15 to 18 years old. And, I mean, how could you do that? How could you hate so much to do that to 7 beautiful little girls?
Just the brutality. I can't imagine.
Those are the things that I saw during that time. And another case was there was a soccer game. I'm just one night riding with this Comandante. And we get another call of a park, a soccer game, and all of a sudden they say there's shots fired, and there's some dispute between 18th Street and MS-13. they chased this one young man, about 18 years old, up a hill from the soccer field, and they chased him with an AK-47 and just blasted his brains out. I mean, just, in front of people watching the soccer game, so, just very, and the other thing, interesting part about this, Cliff,
Yeah.
the homicide people would come, but you know who had the total control of the crime scene? Was the called fiscal. It was the district attorney. The district attorneys can prosecute a case, but homicide, OSS gangs, we do all the investigation,
Right.
present all the facts.
Yeah.
But they had these district attorneys that know nothing about, how to solidify and protect a crime scene. And I brought reels of crime scene tape for them because they were using it over and over and over again, the same tape all the time.
Oh my
They were
God.
tying it all together. So I brought them. I got approval by the sheriff. I brought like 4 big reels of it down as gifts to them.
How
And I was
happy were
working-
they to get that? Well, that was like a gift from heaven,
Oh,
right?
I mean, they thought it was unbelievable, and they needed it too. But it was during that time there were 35 cops a year being assassinated on buses.
What?
So
What do you mean
remember-
on buses?
So the buses are the only way that they could get around. Some people don't own cars who are police officers coming from their home to
Wow.
they don't call it station, they call it delegación, and so they would take a bus. It's privately owned, but a lot of these privately owned buses were being extorted by MS13 18th
God.
Street.
Gee.
And the interesting thing about this, Cliff, was that the police department at the time, the Policía Nacional, PNC, was not allowing their police officers to take the guns home. So,
Oh,
so
my
Gary
God.
Gary Brennan and I, the deputy chief, we presented and say, listen, you can't do this to your police officers. So the director at that time, Rodrigo Avila, agreed to change his policy to let them take the guns home because they were worried about the guns being sold by the police officers to the gang members, which they didn't have many facts of that. But so we helped them change that policy.
That's good. And were you riding with the gang units or regular coppers, or who were you riding along with?
I was me and some of the LAPD, 2 investigators from LAPD, 2 from the sheriff's investigators. We would go out on the certain areas and ride along with them and to see how the areas were. I mean, it was some of the areas that the graffiti on the walls of the community was so. I mean, people are afraid. I mean,
Yeah.
You know what they were talking? You know what they were just talking about? Some of the news networks that this guy Kilmer Borrego Garcia had. It said something. No speak. No.
Oh yeah, no speak, no see no evil.
Don't see no evil. Don't hear. No say. So in Spanish on the walls it would say, no ver, no oyer, no chola. So it means I don't see, you don't hear, and you don't speak. Well, really,
Right.
chola means you don't chat. But chola means you don't chat. You don't. It's in a different terminology. But I gotta tell you, it was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But yet it was educational. My heart breaks for them because this is interesting too. In El Salvador, after the peace accords, they brought 3 entities to make up the police department: academia, the guerrillas, and the army, which were enemies,
What?
to make up the police department.
What? Now were they speaking Spanish?
We had translate, but the four 2 LAPD and 2 LA County sheriffs spoke Spanish fluently.
That's good. And
was-
so, were you
I was-
well
I was-
received by these guys? And were they? They
What's
were.
that?
Were you well received? They were happy to have you with them.
Oh yeah, I mean some of the PNC just call me Tio Ralphie, Uncle Ralphie. I mean, and my Spanish is so poor. They assigned me, the State Department assigned me a translator. all
Oh
the
my
time.
God.
Yeah.
What were
It
the
was-
procedures like? Were they pretty professional, or were they?
The ones I worked with were very professional. Very professional. They worked in a different format though. It was more of a military format. If you and I were partners, right?
Yeah.
Troco and Linwood or Carson or Lennox, right? We're partners. They were driving pickup trucks with 4 or 5 guys in a pickup truck, and they would go to some of the communities with a mascara, with a mask on all the time, because some of the cops were afraid.
They had a mask on because they didn't want them to recognize them off duty. Or
Yeah.
we have a question coming in, Ralph. Can you give opinion on the ramifications of the Menendez brothers getting released? Let's make this bigger. After serving time. I know that they're looking at that case again, but I don't.
Yeah, so my to answer, I don't know who that is, but to give you my opinion, and I'm not a scholar in law.
Yeah.
But don't do the crime if you can't do the time. I'm sorry that they brought up later on that they were sexually abused, but that was not proven during the time of
the trial.
The case
right?
was prosecuted. So listen, how do you live with yourself that you blew your mother's brains out with a shotgun? I mean, I'm sorry. I mean,
yeah.
Here they are saying they've been model inmates in the prisons of California. I'm sorry. I apologize whoever asked that question, but I don't agree with them being released.
No, in my opinion, is they're trying to use a defense of physical abuse or whatever as some kind of defense, and maybe getting a new. Do you think maybe they're going just for a new sentencing hearing and not a new trial? Because I don't think they would get a not guilty on that, but maybe they would.
Like I said, I'm not a scholar.
Yeah,
I think they're counting on this liberal governor. And I believe that Gascon, the previous district attorney, put that those wheels in motion for his own campaign. Even though some of his supporters dispute that, but I don't believe that. And so now they're going to ride this wave. Menendez and his attorneys are going to ride that wave.
Oh, yeah. And they're just going to try to, well, I mean, anytime, if you can get in front of another jury, you never know what they're going to do. So you got a chance, I guess. But I'm like you. It's like there would have been, these guys were adults. They could have escaped, right? I mean, they could have moved to New York and been away from their parents. And, the murder was not the answer. That's,
Hey, Cliff, in the audience, it was all about money.
Yeah, right. Do you know anything about the case at all? I never really followed it.
I'm trying. What year did it happen? I'm trying to remember now.
I'd have to look it up.
It's been so long. But they both brothers. Remember, it was kind of like a conspiracy. They both just assassinated both their parents.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. Let me type that in to the producers here. What year was the Menendez case? Right. That had to be in the 90s, right?
It's got to be 30. It's got to be 30 plus years ago.
What year was
the
Menendez?
I might have been a sergeant at the time.
1989. Oh my God, I was at Linwood at the time.
Okay, I was at the academy. Yeah.
Yeah, brothers Eric and Lyle Menendez on trial for the August 1989 shotgun murders of their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, in the family's Beverly Hills mansion. So I guess probably our homicide handled that, though, right?
I believe our homicide probably handled that.
Yeah, because I don't even know if Beverly Hills has a homicide.
No, they got a homicide, but I think a lot of times they had a certain high visibility murders. Sheriff's Department handled it.
Right, yeah, because of the resources and maybe.
Well, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, you did, VR. Thank you for the question. We wanted to get at least one question in this episode, and so we did, Ralph. And let's see, any other things you want to address? We're pushing on an hour here, so if you have anything else you want to discuss.
I'd like just to circle back to fentanyl because I'm very passionate.
Yeah.
In fact, next week I'll be presenting to some high schools a couple of times, and my heart breaks for the parents.
Yeah.
Of the loss, like you mentioned before. I communicate on LinkedIn, and some of the parents. I always tell them I pray for them, and when they mention on LinkedIn that the date they lost their loved ones. And I got to tell you, it's all about education right now. Continue educating our youth about the dangers and don't interact with people they don't know on dark web advertising on Snapchat. Don't buy any drug on Snapchat. It's not legal. It's all illicit drugs on there that
Right.
will probably kill you. I want to mention the fact I'm very proud of Derek Maltz, the acting director of the Drug Enforcement Agency. He's a great man. He's a very assertive, and he's the kind of guy that we want to ride in a radio car with, Cliff,
Yeah.
that will knock on doors and make sure to get to the bottom of it. I love the way he speaks and what he has to say and how he leads. The other thing, Cliff, you and I both have spoke about this. I love law enforcement. I love our
Yeah.
police officers and our deputy sheriffs, and my heart goes out to all of them. And I'm very proud of the work we do. Hey, listen, we have people that make mistakes. When we recruit from the human race,
Yeah.
we have people that make mistakes. I mean, you look back, in NYP, the Prince of the City movie, or
Yeah.
how all the drugs and money, and you look at Arco Narco in the sheriff's department. I knew
Yeah.
most of those people that
I
went to
know.
prison, and
Yeah.
to this day, it breaks my heart. Drugs and money, and those are the things that I think that law enforcement always has to remember. Remember to honor that badge.
Yeah.
That badge means so much. And if I could share this also with the young officers,
Please. Yeah.
see the movie on HBO. It's called The 75th. It's about the 75th precinct and East Brooklyn. Michael Dowd and his partners, and how they during the '90s were taking the money away from people on calls, and also
Oh my God.
networking with a Dominican drug cartels. Those are the things I really have disdain for, is when cops are not cops anymore, are criminals.
Yeah.
And so, listen, we like I said, we recruit from the human race, but we have to work hard at always honoring what that badge truly means on our chest.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. I got to see that 75th. I don't think I've seen that movie, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
put that down.
Cliff, I used it in my middle management classes when I was teaching middle management for post, and take excerpts from it. And also, there's a great book called Buddy Boys that was taken from that also during that time for NYPD. Hey, listen, we you and I and so many people in the audience right now are, probably all could align with this, that, we were blessed to work in a career that is truly, I believe, is so noble.
It is really
So
noble.
noble.
Yeah. And I had a lot of errors in that book. I think I took it off the market. But the truth about the police and why you should trust them, because I really, the media, as you said, the way they paint a picture is they just, we grab people off the street. And I really wanted to explain, how, and I talked about this yesterday when I talked about, if you want to be a police officer, hopefully you started in high school developing your background, because I think most of the departments do an excellent job in a background investigation and where they go with it, and so I don't think we could do any better, really. And I think we initially get the best people in the job, and of course people can change. But we have background investigations through high school, neighbors, friends, past jobs, the towns that you went to college in, getting police reports, and then psychological evaluations and polygraphs, and do you do the best you can with those background investigations? But you can't get them all. But yeah,
Well, it's the difficult part about doing a background, and a person may come up as being perfect, but
yeah,
also the job changes people though too, Cliff.
yeah,
And sometimes I gotta say this, I may hurt some feelings on this, but sometimes peer pressure puts people in a bad position. They don't know how to make their own decisions to lead. And all of us are leaders. I don't care you don't have to have a rank of a chief, commander, or captain. You could be a leader as a recruit in an academy. And being a leader in the academy means that if you see something that somebody's doing in the academy against somebody else, or there's something, he cheated on a test, or he cheated on range, or cheated on whatever. If you're going to start cheating right now in the academy, what's going to happen later on when you hit the streets?
yeah. You're right. Yeah, But we're circling back to the, making bad decisions because of, if you were drunk on duty, you probably would make bad decisions. Well, they're really showing that for you to be so sleep deprived, it's almost like being drunk. And here we are just drafting people right and left. They're forcing overtime, not without regard for how much sleep they've had. You're staying. Oh, I haven't slept in 2 days. Too bad. I mean, it's just not a way to go. Yeah.
And we didn't speak about that. I'll say something about it, my own opinion, not the department's opinion, L.A. County Sheriff's, but there's a price to pay when you draft some people so much. I used to monitor I was a sergeant in gangs, I was a patrol sergeant, as a lieutenant, and a lieutenant especially at gangs, OSS. I used to tell my guys, you're going home, and my ladies.
That's right,
you're
yeah.
going home now. Because, you could only, especially when we were on the Jerry Ortiz murder, for how many years, and they were so mission driven that they didn't want to go. I said, no, you got to go home now. Go home to your family, because I didn't want anything to happen to them.
Now that would be leadership, Ralph. Where you work 7 at night till 3 in the morning. I know you went to court today at 9, and then you're starting tonight. Have you had sleep? And maybe I'll put you on the desk, and then if you don't want to burn the time, but I'm not going to put you back out on patrol because you're too tired. Or maybe, sometimes there's bunk rooms. I want you to take 2-hour nap, or, that would be leadership, because they're finding, as I go through all these health classes, you find out how important sleep is and how detrimental it is to your mental faculties and your ability to make a decision, right? I mean, I remember years ago they had that. There was an episode of Chips where one of them was so tired they were starting to see visions, and they were on their motorcycle and they hadn't slept. I mean, that's all true stuff.
It can happen. And I think that it's really tough right now because of we talked about in the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah.
That they're down to probably maybe 3,000 people, and guess what? What's going on here? A few years, politicians wanted to reimagine, defund police. How close were they getting accomplished? Given long-term effects that happen. Well, if I read this statement or question from VR, guess what? They defunded the police through the media and the politicians.
Because we can't replace positions.
Without taking the money away, they actually defunded the police because a lack of enthusiasm. People wanted to join law enforcement around the country. Yeah. So there was a effect of that, VR, in regards to defunding. There's an effect, and that's what we're getting right now.
That was a good question, because they've kind of done it through other means. In other words, people are retiring, fired, and leaving, and then we can't replace those positions. Now, at one time, just to give a view from the L.A. Sheriff's Department, at one time, just through attrition and retirements, and we would lose 500 a year. So I don't know what it is. Probably more than that now. And so,
I don't have the number, but I can tell you this. 1987 to 1990, I was a staff instructor. I was putting classes through at least 125, 130 recruits, and maybe graduating 89, 90.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I mean, so, and we were putting 5 classes through a year.
Yeah.
So just add the numbers up of that. So we were feeding the machinery really very assertively during that time.
I mean, if the numbers were that way, you could really put in 2 or 3 classes. Let's say you did 3 or 4 classes a year at 100 people. You're barely meeting the attrition rate of 500 a year.
Yeah, and now it's tougher. I mean, LAPD's having a tough time too. The smaller departments nationwide are doing better than the large departments. And
Alba and I were trying to tell some people that we know in the department, although it's been going on for over 10 years now, we're trying to tell, because a lot of these deputies, and they have $1 million houses, and they're making, a couple $100,000 a year. And Alva and I have been given the message, that's not forever. We never worked with that in our budget. We never had overtime in our budget. But these deputies have had it for so long, they think this is going to be forever. Maybe it is the way it's going. I don't know.
Well, you know, it's interesting. When I was a captain of narcotics, there was there was a mandate of, you probably remember this, Cliff. You could only work up to 96
96
hours.
hours a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Now there's no limit.
No. And, I had a self inflicted limit because, Ralph, like yourself, I had a health and physical mindset that I had to get my workouts in. And so, I turned down overtime because, no, I haven't worked out in 3 days. I have to work out, sleep, and eat right. I can't. And so, but that was just something I have to do for myself. And I see the culture kind of just moving away from that, but I don't like
You
it.
know, can I address something with you? Just
Please.
brought up about health, like, because I know you and I always talk about health and fitness. I used to tell the recruits, the biggest insurance policy you could have is keeping yourself healthy.
Yes.
And listen, I used to run marathons during when I was working. I would go to day shift at 4 in the morning, run 6 miles and do a whole shift.
Wow.
And if I was
Yeah.
and if I was PMs, I'd work out beforehand, my partner or by myself. And here we are, both at 68 years old.
Yeah.
Every day is a workout. Whatever the workout is, it's a
Yeah.
workout.
And I
I'm worried
enjoy it.
about.
Yeah.
Me too. But it was mental health though too. It was
That's the
mental
key.
health.
It's mental health.
Mental
You know,
health. That serotonin in the brain.
yep, the
But also,
serotonin.
it can't. Serotonin. Thank you. And you know something. It just kept that good spirit about yourself all
Yeah.
the time. And then also, it always made me. I always tell the recruits, you got to last 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's
Remember
right.
that two
Yeah.
minutes. You got to last 2 minutes on the street. For backup. And that made me force me, just like for you, it made me be diligent to stay in shape, but also to stay in shape for your family after you retire, like you and I.
Yeah, that's just, why not enjoy the fruits of your work in your career? And I got to say, the mental health thing is really, I watch, and Danny Coons talks about it, and I think somebody mentioned, since this last administration's been in with the L.A. County Sheriff's Department, they had 14 suicides. I know that we had infamously 4 in one day, and I just, and I see some of these cop podcasts and stuff, and about what people are going through, PTSD. I think we're all probably suffered from it from some sort or another, specifically you probably too. But I'm thinking, wow, I'm pretty sure that exercise and training, kept flushing my brain so that I didn't really suffer so much from this, because I'm thinking, wait, maybe I should be depressed and suicidal because of what I've seen. But, I've habituated and mostly to be in a good mood and to keep good spirits. And I see you're doing the same. And I think exercise and movement has a lot to do with that.
Not only that, but also I always associated not only just with cops, but other people in different careers too, and different occupations, and it just gave me a better overall view of people. I didn't become too myopic.
Yeah,
About
that's right.
Everybody's a bad person. Listen, we got bad people in all different
Yeah.
colors and shades and occupations and stuff. You can't be naive about that. But I always just felt you know, I kept a great attitude that I really care about people.
Yeah, that's right.
And I took a lot of people to jail, but on a totality, I help more people too, though.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's what I focused on the most.
It's funny because sometimes, isn't it weird? Sometimes it's the it's the career criminal or the gang member that you arrest, who you're treating with a little respect, and they're treating you with respect because they know how it goes. This is the game we go with, and well, you're showing me a little respect. I'm going to show you a little respect, and it goes easier than the person we deal with who has never had contact with the police, right? We're dealing with someone who they know how the operation goes, right? And it kind of goes easier because of it.
Well, I could tell you a story of a guy that in 1982, I was told by Bob Perry, who was a homicide investigator, "Hey, Ralph, you know this guy? He was APB, and we believe he killed a park ranger." I said, "Yeah, I know him. I know his mom and stuff." He goes, "But go hook him up, and I'll print out the warrant later on." Well, it was a different time. So I knew the mom, and I go with my partner, and in the middle, a front door, in front of the door, it's all, the security door. And I could see I could talk to the mom, and I could see this person standing in the back door with a pit bull. And pit bull's head is probably about the size of a basketball. Bigger.
Yes. Oh my
And
God.
I told the mother, I was very honest with the mother, and I said, hey, I'm here to arrest your son. And she goes, what's it about? I go, ma'am, I'm never going to lie to you. You know, I've always been straight up with you. This is what it's about. And I said, listen, please, don't let me lock down the whole block and bring the SWAT team in and stuff. So she tells her son, put the pit bull away and come on out. And anyway, we arrest him. And she goes, the only way I'm going to let you arrest him if I could drive in the front seat. I said, I don't care. You know, leave your purse at home, bring your keys with you, leave your purse at home.
Yeah.
So she sat in front of me, and my partner sat behind me, and the suspect behind the passenger seat. Well, years go by, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, I'm off duty with my wife, and I see this person. And he's been in movies. I'm not going to mention his name.
Yeah.
He's been in numerous movies, you know. And he looks at me, and he goes, Deputy O. And I look at him, I knew him right away, you know. And I go, hey, I put my finger on him. It's not Deputy O anymore, it's Captain O. And then
Oh my God.
He came over and he shook my hand, introduced me to his girlfriend. And I mean, listen, you know, this guy could kick my ass. He's so damn big. But, you know, it also goes about how you treat people with respect and stuff. I mean, and I think he respected because I respected his mom.
Yeah, yeah. It is funny because I think we talked about this before because I don't have to think about it. I mean, if you and I went golfing, you know, I would be greeting and saying hi to the groundskeeper guy or, you know what I mean? I treat everybody that way. I don't have to think about it because I know, you know, I'm starting out with a joyous attitude and I try to spread that. People might walk by this person and never acknowledge him, but, you know, I see them and I let them know that I see them. And I think that's important. And what an opportunity we have to do that every day with anybody we come in contact with.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple, the nobility of being a cop, and how you work in uniform, and all it takes it just takes not too much effort just to be polite and respectful.
Yeah,
and it comes back tenfold.
It does.
You know?
Yeah,
and you know, I look at working as a captain of Men's Central Jail, and I walk those floors every day.
Oh, man.
At 5:30, Cliff. And I said hello to everybody, the nurses, the mental health, you name it, the plumbers, you know, all the religious people, the inmates, my deputies.
Yeah.
But, the inmates, you know, I engaged them. I got to know some of them, and some of them actually gave me some good information about preventing some problems within the jail.
Yeah.
And all it took was a little bit of respect to give them.
Yeah,
that's the only thing they live by, you know.
That is the what do you would call it? That's kind of that's the currency in the jail is really respect. That's the currency you have. Yeah.
Right, and you gotta know when somebody's gonna bullshit you too, though.
Yeah. And in some cases it doesn't do any harm, but yeah, you gotta have your filter. What a city. When I think about Men's Central Jail, if people could just go through there and see this city. I mean, I grew up in a small village in upstate New York of 3,000 people. Here we have Men's Central Jail, probably 6,000 plus is in this building, you know, and just of everybody involved. And it's a city working with medical and inmates and deputies and religious services and schools. And the things that are happening is like a bunch of ants running around, everybody doing their thing. It's just an amazing place.
You know, when the jail commissioner on violence came through in 2012, you know, and Jim McDonald was a chief of Long Beach at the time on that jail commission, and I gave him my stats. He says, you know, he pulled me aside. He goes, "This is a city within a city." And
that's right. Yeah.
He goes, "Your murder rate is better in here than it is in my city." You know.
Yeah.
But it's a very dangerous place.
Very dangerous place. Very.
And you know this as well as I do, Cliff. The Mexican mafia really, really has an unbelievable operation in how they run their drugs and everything they do in there. And it really frustrates me, makes me very mad that we've had some of the shit that they bring into the jails. You know, it really does makes me mad.
I don't think in your case you weren't like me, very naive and grew up in a small little village in upstate New York, and my sheriff's department had 20 deputies, And, my background investigators telling me, well, in the jail, they run drugs and they pull hits and they, assassinate people. And I'm thinking, what? That can't be true. And to go in there and see this happening, and how they actually can move people from the prison system down into the county jail to pull a hit on somebody, and to have somebody return from court, go to his cell and see a couple of bodies stuffed underneath the bunks, dead. Calling your attorney, I'm in the cell with 2 bodies. What do I do? People just wouldn't believe it. But it is an amazing, dangerous place for sure. Yeah.
I'll tell you this story. In 1980 or 81, I ran the marathon for the Police Olympics.
Wow!
I was on the front cover of the magazine, Star News or something like that. And I had it in my 2200 module, just on my desk, and I was admiring myself. And I didn't realize this inmate named Ledesma was looking over my shoulder, because sometimes in the module there in 2200, the inmates were right there in 1980,
Yes.
And anyway, I threw it in my drawer. The next day, Cliff, this inmate, Ledesma, hands me a cardboard, I still have it in my scrapbook, a cardboard drawing of me, almost to a T, and my facial expression, my muscles in my legs. And it told me what a talent of this guy. So I'll speed ahead. I get moved as a third man on the news side, 43, 4400. So I'm looking out D-row on top of, I told my deputy, hey, let the guys on D-row out, right? And I hear my last name, Deputy Ornelas, help. And it's Ledesma running to me. And I'm running up the steps on 44 to get to him on the D-row, right? A lot of people aren't coming out. And here's this other inmate behind him with a homemade stabbing instrument, shank, and he's stabbing him in the back.
Jeez. Oh my
repeatedly,
God.
Repeatedly. And he fell in my arms, and I hit this other inmate with my flashlight, and I caught Ledesma in my arms. I dragged him out, and I locked the gate, and my deputy in the control book called 415, deputy involved, and here's this young man, 19 years old. I'm 22.
Yeah.
Or 22 or 23 at that time. And here he is, died in my arms, with multiple stab wounds. And I still have this drawing that he did. And I say to myself, what a
wait. He died?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Right in your arms. He did die in your arms.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
When the paramedics got there, the nurses and stuff, and he died right there. And and he's, like I told you, he's yelling my name out, Cliff, and my Deputy O, and here he is. I pull him, I drag him after I struck that other inmate who was stabbing him, and I drag him out. And I gotta tell you, man, it's like I think every once in a while I think about that young man.
Yeah.
A talent. What a talent.
Right, and here's a guy, he drew a picture of you, you had a connection with him, and then in his last moments, he's yelling your name and coming to you as a savior, and he dies in your arms, murdered. Just... Yeah. There's PTSD right there. You're always going to, probably comes, like you said, comes to your mind every once in a while, though, right?
Yeah, but it's not a negative in a sense.
No, yeah.
I think, like I just described it, I think of him as a positive, with a talented, my words out of my mouth right, a talented young man that a talent went to waste.
Yes.
It's like, remember the Bronx Tale?
Yeah.
Robert De Niro to see, nothing, what does he say? Something, you can't waste a talent or something to that effect.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was a line. Yeah, and to see, in Central Jail, you have all these murals that were all done by inmates, and they're just like works of art. To the detail, what they can do, it's just the drawings. Oh, my God.
I know.
I have nothing of that. I have no talent like that.
I barely could write my name.
My dad was a wood carver after he retired, so he carved ducks and put feathers in. I couldn't do it. But, hey, why don't we... We're coming to the end here. Ralph, would you come back and let's do this? I'd like to do this because, we kind of take it for granted, some of the stories that we were involved with well-known people and, kind of, iconic areas of Los Angeles and Hollywood and Sunset Strip and whatnot and Compton. And we don't think anything of it. And yet I tell some people some stories that I think are nothing, and they're just, they're hanging on every word. Let's come back together and tell some more stories on our next episode.
I love to do that with regards to some of the celebrities that I encounter.
Yeah.
And some of it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think of, oh my God, I was trying to think of a guy's name. Oh, Bob Forster. I was 16 years old. We're in Henrietta, New York, and we're going through the movie theater. I'm 16 years old, and my dad goes, "Look, there's Bob Forster, the actor. He's from Rochester, And so then, okay, whatever. I hear 35 years later, I'm working at Universal. I'm on a city walk, and Bob's coming up for a premiere. I think a movie. He just drove himself up to Universal, and I got to talk to him. Hey, Mr. Forster, I saw you 25 years ago when I was 16 years old in the movie theater in Rochester, and just the nicest guy. Oh, do you ever get back? I get back once in a while, and it's just I had a couple.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just experiences. As a matter of fact, so then I'll tell one other story, because I used to love that we had the Country Music Awards up at Universal. And so I think it's Lynn Anderson. My mom always played Lynn Anderson songs. I think she had I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, one of those famous songs from the 60s. And so here I was, after the Country Music Awards, and there was Lynn Anderson, and she needed a walk to her limousine. I got to walk Lynn Anderson to her car, and it was just, I wish I had a cell phone at the time to take pictures, but I mean, that was just thrilling to me. I mean, it was just little things like that were just thrilling moments that I got an opportunity to have, working on the sheriff's department.
Well, I think, going back to, being in a career that we're in and blessed to be in, there's so many great people we encountered, though, too.
Oh, my God, I know it. So many.
Within the organization and outside the organization that, kind of always gives you hope.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
It gives you hope about things. But, and let's face it, nothing's perfect in life, but it's how you make it.
That's right. It's how you make it. And Ralph, this is a good thing to end on. I love you. Let's get back together, and I'll send you the links on this. Of course, we went live, so it's already up. 16 people are watching. Thank you. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. If you end up listening on the replay, go back to YouTube and watch the video of us too. You will see that we both have faces for radio. I'm just joking. Hey, Ralph, you're pretty.
Take care, man. Take care.
All right.
God bless.
I love you. Hang out for a second. I'll say goodbye off the air. All right, everybody.
Okay.